Welcome to the meat of the matter. We're going to be talking about something today that's kind of been on my mind. I have been feeling under the weather. I'm feeling a lot better now with a little raw liver and eggs was my key to feeling good. But I got into taking a deep dive over the last few days into just the big agriculture problems with plants and like the whole breakdown of how the system works. And we've all heard Anthony Chafee say that the last 5% going full carnivore makes 95% of the difference. And we've all felt that, I think, you guys, right? Mark, have you felt that? Like you go full carnivore, cut out all plants, and this seems to be this magic thing. Have you felt that, Peter?
Oh yeah, like it took me a long time to get down to where I am right now.
Yeah.
Like it took me probably about 3 to 6 months to eliminate everything. And the last thing that had to go was, like you, Tony, I was a big coffee drinker.
Yeah.
And I loved my vegetables. I could never let go of the vegetables ever. I think the biggest thing for me was that I couldn't get my head around that people were telling me, like, listen, stop eating vegetables. Like,
Yeah.
we need to eat vegetables. And that was the biggest thing for me. I just couldn't let them go. And then waking up in the morning, I felt I needed that energy. So I was relying on caffeine. Every morning when I woke up, the first thing I did was I had to get that caffeine, that dopamine hit. I'd have to look at my phone. I'd have to look. I'd have a cup of coffee, and I just knew it wasn't doing me any favors because it was affecting me big time. And it wasn't until I eliminated it. Now I've actually gotten rid of those bad habits. I don't wake up now in the morning. I drink the coffee. I look at my phone anymore. And I have way more energy, way more. The thing about caffeine is it robs you from the energy source, what you're meant to have.
Well, yeah, so, I mean, they're saying about, like, I give up coffee from time to time just to see how I feel about the caffeine addiction. I find I'm not relying. I don't have any withdrawals, but obviously I think I'd be naive if I didn't think there was some addictive property there. But I'm ready now. Because after the last 3 days of researching this shit, I'm ready to just give up coffee because I like, Peter, have you felt that? Like when you gave up most plants, what did you feel? Like what happened? And then
I felt great, and I think the easiest way to look at it is what happens when you reintroduce things, and it easily happens when you have family gatherings or that sort of things, and I've had no skin issues, I think, for 2.5 years now, already starting keto, actually. So keto itself helped already a lot.
Yeah.
But now 2 years without, and then when I have a family gathering, it was the beginning of January, I still eat only meat, but yeah, in a restaurant you get who knows what, maybe a remnant of seed oils, some spices, pepper. I did start eating avocado again. It does contain some oxalates. So yeah, that sort of things. You see it immediately. And it's far less than that 10% that you mentioned. It's like a few percent.
That's a good point, Peter, because I did that as well. About 4 months ago, I brought back in an avocado. Within an hour, within 2 hours, I just felt like crap.
Yeah, well, that didn't happen to me. I mean, I felt great. Actually, maybe I even enjoyed it. But yeah, the side effects come later also.
Yeah. Well, boys, I have now, we've all heard of, obviously oxalates are a thing, lectins, all the different anti-nutrients in plants. But I think there's a bigger, sinister thing at play. And I don't mean to be wearing my tinfoil hat, but it's unbelievably undeniable. I watched a documentary on tomatoes, on seed production. Can you guys guess how much on the free market a kilogram of hybridized tomato seeds run in Europe, in euros? How much a kilogram of tomato seeds are?
No idea.
In the thousands, at least.
67,000 euros.
Wow.
So just by saying that, you think there's some financial play? Now, when you look at the seeds, there's 4 major tomato seed producers in the world. One of them is Monsanto, Lima Grain or something from France. The other one's Dow and DuPont. These are all and Syngenta or something like that. They're all chemical companies. They own the tomato hybridization seed manufacturer. Now, we all look at tomatoes and go, well, ancestrally we'd be eating them in Italy, in Europe. Well, now they did this, and this documentary was like 3 or 4 years ago. They did an analysis on the nutritional value. So we eat tomatoes because they're all high in polyphenols and they're lycopenes and all these things that they say are good for us. All from vitamin C to magnesium to like all the properties are down by magnesium's down by 29%, vitamin C 57%. All the polyphenols are less than half now. So now when you look at that, and they spray them. So is it the tomato or is it what man has done? Now that led me to more questions. How bad is our big agriculture getting these? Like we all have heard of, the glyphosate, but all these minor chemicals that we just assume because they tell us they're safe. I think that 5% cutting out that plant, you are saving your body from these runoff effects of these chemicals. And I think we are downplaying this. And I honestly believe now, I always I knew about plants are trying to kill you. And I believe that's, that's true. But I think people are trying to make the plants kill us more. And that's kind of what I'm in. If you cut out this stuff, I mean, spinach, kale, and collard and mustard greens are on the worst contaminated plants. So I think there's something huge to be said about that. And I think when we go carnivore and you go full animal, like is the best quality you can, you start eliminating all these things that are just, they're everywhere. And I don't give a shit if you think that it's an organic farm. If it's been grown and they've sprayed or readied that crop, it's in the water now. It's in the ecosystems. There is no doubt that is playing a major role of stuff. I don't know what you guys think about that, but
100%. I don't know if you guys I don't know if you guys ever heard of Richard Smith, but Richard Smith has been talking about this now for the last year. He's been talking about like these plants are actually getting worse. They're actually like a bag of spinach. People say that you're getting all the vitamin C, you're getting all the nutrients, you're getting all the minerals, everything that you need. It's absolutely horrendous. It's horrendous.
What I learned about spinach, even if, like, let's just say the oxalates aren't a factor, the iron in spinach, which we have to convert from non-heme to heme, so the percentage is ridiculous. Like it's useless, really. 2% conversion is 57% less iron now in spinach than there was 50 years ago. So right there, that argument you guys get, like anybody that says spinach is healthy for you, I mean, shit. And it's on the list of the most heavily sprayed pesticide vegetables. It's crazy. And I mean, and I think that's a big thing that people can't, like, I mean, because I do it too every day. I go, well, should I be eating vegetables still after 4 years of this diet? I still have this thing in my head that I have to basically just go through my emotions of like reassuring myself I'm doing the right thing. But I think this is a very big deal, man. And when you look at who owns all this shit, big agriculture is owned by 3 companies, and we don't have to mention their names because if you've never heard of BlackRock yet, it's.
But the thing is, Tony, though, all 3 of us understand that. But if you're talking to the average person that's listening to this right now or watching this right now, they're looking at this and saying, like, listen, you're crazy, absolutely crazy.
Yeah, because half of people think that you can just wash off pesticides from an apple, for example. So if you're at that point, then the stuff we're talking about is way too far-fetched.
Well, now when you say a good point there with apples, Peter, because we've all heard Paul Saladino say fruit and honey, right? Like you can agree or disagree with him. I think, to be honest with you, if it's natural fruit and you can be, it might be okay. But telling somebody that needs to change their whole life and like restructure I don't think that's good advice. I think that's very, narrow-minded. But apples in North America, especially, are sprayed with phenylalanine or no, that's an amino acid. I don't know. It's a chemical that keeps them from bruising when they're bunched together. There's no other reason to be sprayed but that. So
that's also what part of the hybridization is for, with the tomatoes, for example, just to prolong the shelf life and that sort of things. Indeed, prevent bruising.
Yeah,
and all the nutrition goes the other way.
So when you're listening to Paul Saladino say he eats fruit and honey, this guy, sorry, I got a garbage truck outside my house. This guy is picking mangoes from the tree. That's a far cry different than the supermarket apples and oranges and pears, strawberries. All that stuff is on the most sprayed list. So where you are totally matters. And I think that's a big, big deal when you're trying to look at your diet. And it's unbelievable, man. And I mean, I've known this stuff. It's been sort of in my awareness, but I don't think we realize such a profound impact it's going to make on our bodies, especially over time. And I think that is the big thing, is the chemicals. And holy shit, man, it's not good. And I mean,
what have you learned about the coffee? I'm very interested in that.
Well, we know coffee. Coffee. I think the biggest problem is the mold. And apparently dry roasting doesn't kill the mold. So if the beans, most coffee places are sourced. So they're a mix of beans, whether it's Arabica or whatever the other bean is. And I think it's one of those things that, in a perfect world, it might be okay. But are you eating or drinking a perfect bean? I don't know. I don't think you can control that. And I think that's a very big, big problem. So I'm cutting out coffee. I'm doing it. This is my last coffee.
Join me.
I'll report, but I'm over it, man. I'm serious. I'm just like, this stuff. It just, I'm never shocked anymore. Like, I don't get shocked at all this stuff, but I'm one of those guys that I want to know why. And I think there's that two-sided coin that we forget as carnivores, because people just can't get over the fact that it's animals or plants. It's other shit. And I think our modern day farming practices have completely railroaded any nutritional value in vegetables. And even the seeds are genetically modified. So they control the seeds. So when you buy it from the shop and you even plant organic stuff in your own garden, if those seeds have been genetically modified, they're already, who knows what's going on, right? And I think that's a huge problem. And I'm starting to switch gears. I might go full blown activist here, because I'm like, this is not good.
No, I totally agree with you. As I said, my life is very, very basic now. I don't have any how should I say it, like, just any bad habits at all. Like, I'm at a state in my life now where I just feel amazing, and I'm not gonna allow anything to interrupt that. And I know when I do introduce these foods or drinks back in, I know the damage it does. So that's always said, listen, no, I can make that decision. I understand the situation now. I don't feel pressurized. I don't feel guilty about not taking these foods anymore. I'm content about where I am. And when you talked about, like, Paul Saladino and what he has, like, I've mentioned this many, many times about Paul Saladino. You have to understand what this guy does for a living. Yeah. And what he's able to do for a living. A lot of people are not in that situation.
Where he's living.
Yeah. A lot of people are not in that situation. A lot of people are falling for this propaganda. And at the end of the day, money talks. So if something is cheap, some people are going to buy it. That's the way it is.
Yeah. I mean,
and that's the unfortunate thing, that a lot of people don't have enough money. A lot of people don't have the lifestyles as Paul Saladino.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they don't know any better. So if they're not able to afford, like, proper food, then what are they meant to do?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I tell you, man, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I wanna a little cabin by a river. I'm serious, man. It's unbelievable the amount of toxicity that we're exposed to, and it's no wonder we're all dying. Like, it's unbelievable. And I think, we're all carnivores. We've all taken that choice. I mean, I don't use soap anymore. I make my own deodorant. I don't use shampoo. I try and eliminate all these things that I can. And every day I learn about more things that are just, possibilities. Like you're in a toxic soup. And I think, the best you can do, control, is try and take control of what you're putting in your mouth.
100%. I'm the same as you, Tony. I made that choice as well. The only thing I put on my skin now is tallow and pretty much coconut oil. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all. I actually brush my teeth now with coconut oil as well.
I do too. That's what I like change it, man. I'm like, coconut oil, a little baking soda, and that's it. And I'm under the impression, like, I don't know how you guys feel, but if you can't eat it, why would it be on your skin? If we talk about,
that's a good one.
If we talk about this stuff all the time about like how we don't want chemicals around us, but yet we're putting shit. And I feel bad for women because their makeup, they have no idea what's in there. I mean, I'm sure there's good cosmetics companies, but I mean, man, we are so far removed from what's natural. And I think carnivore is a great way to sort of do what you can to mitigate that stuff. And I understand people have to live. I understand people have, but if you just start waking up to this whole idea that it's all driven, and if the same companies own the same shit that nourish you, they provide you, and then they fix you when you're broken, that whole cycle, it's crazy. And I really have a tough time. I don't know if they're psychopaths. I don't know if this is some nefarious evil thing.
Yeah, I always see it as still a systematic error. So I speak in the same way, like they and them doing those things, but in the end it's mostly a system, of course, because individual doctors usually have good intentions, even those that give bad advice. So I mean, those guys are there as well, right? I mean, people in the direction of those chemical companies or those that hybridize the seeds, they are not necessarily also with malintent, but yeah, I imagine that the chance is a little bit bigger there.
Well, and I mean, guys, like I want to get into this stuff too, where when you're looking at big agriculture, North America is only a small piece of the puzzle. All around the world, there's child labor. Like it's horrific. And I mean, for the people that don't want to wake up to this, the way out of it, animal-based local. Support your local farms. Support the people that are producing the food with the best of intentions. That you can't say that the local farms around your area are there for the money, because I'll tell you what, they're not. It's like you look in Europe, especially. I mean, I know, Peter, you guys have had like craziness with the farmers. And I mean, we can get into the politics of it, but it's not about that. It's, Mark, in Ireland, like, you guys have the best dairy, arguably, on the planet, because they're not screwing with it. But I from what I believe, I think Ivor Cummins mentioned it, they're trying to. I don't know how is it in Ireland? Like, how's Kerrygold butter? Because a lot of carnivores want to know. That's like the.
I think we'll be okay, but yeah, they are. I mean, you can see when you spoke to me the other day about what we're doing with the cows, I actually looked it up straight away after our call. Yeah. And thank God they're not actually touching our animals yet.
Yeah. And that's the thing that scares me too, is they are implementing this stuff with no public knowledge. Like, this is where our governments are, where, like, especially with the Bovaer thing. How are we not knowing this? And I mean, it's a whole other ballgame with the climate bullshit. But I mean, how can you say animals that are natural from God?
Yeah. Well, how is it that we don't know it? Well, everything that is not a nutrient doesn't have to be mentioned on the food label.
That's it.
And most people only look at the food label for calories and the amount of protein, not even considering what kind of protein. and maybe even more people don't even look at the food label at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I don't know how this comes, because I want to know what I eat. Basically, that's it. And people always say that you are stressing when you are just looking up what's in your food, but it's just making informed decisions.
Absolutely. And you saw my video the other day, Peter, about the guy that was talking about plant-based food, and I put on it like, listen, what he's talking about everything on the packet apart from one thing, and that's the bottom part, like all the ingredients. And I highlight the names that he didn't mention in yellow. And I never even heard of these words, but I had to go into Google and Google this shit. This video took me about a week to do because I was so much I had to research, and before I put it up, I had to make sure. Okay, first of all, I have to make sure I nail this. So I looked up all the ingredients. I looked up every single one of them. Every one of them.
Yeah.
And he never mentioned one. There was two of them. There was two ingredients in there that were absolutely harmful, that if it was swallowed. Harmful.
So, and you make a good point there. And I want the carnivores to listen to this, because this is, Mark, you just made a good point. If something is in there and it's harmful in a certain amount, but not harmful in a smaller amount, what happens when you eat more of it? What happens when you eat more of the serving size? They tell you, oh, don't worry about it. It's safe in this amount. Well, what if you binge on it? How is that
This
safe?
is exactly what happened with gluten in the, let's say, the 90s, I think, or the beginning of this millennium. I became gluten-free. And at that time, in Europe at least, you had all these Scandinavian gluten-free products. And they were based on, I don't know, sort of washed wheat in which the gluten was removed. But of course, a certain percentage or promillage was left behind. And then they say, like, yeah, this is below an acceptable threshold. But yeah, that already back then I thought, like, well, what if I eat 10 slices of bread? Not thinking too much yet about the carbohydrates, but those gluten, of course, they add up and become just as toxic. But also at lower levels, why not?
And isn't it amazing that in the last, say, 20, 30 years, gluten has only been brought in? We never even heard about it like 50 years ago.
You know why? I learned this.
Yeah, except maybe some celiac people. Yeah.
But when we were kids, how many of you guys did you guys ever hear of a celiac when we were kids? No. It didn't even exist. But what I learned from this artisan bread making they're from France and they're here locally in Vancouver, and they explained to me what this is. And first of all, it's the wheat. The dwarf wheat that's North American, especially, is so bad. It's so high in gluten. The way they've done it, it's
hybridized.
Yeah. And then secondly, the old world way of making bread, which we bastardized every single culture that extracted nutrition from a food, like, minorly, like soaking or sprouting. All these practices have been gone out the wayside to make mass production and food stability. So what they used to do was cure the bread. So you would have these artisan bakers in France and Italy and Europe. They would be curing the bread. And as the bread cures, those proteins break down, the gluten level gets less and less. So they knew how to actually make it safer for human consumption. And that's completely gone with our bread practice. It's not even bread anymore.
You know what meat replacements are made of primarily? Gluten.
Right on. Yeah. Well, your friendly neighborhood protein, right? Like, and that's and just for everybody that doesn't realize, gluten is a lectin. So that's predominantly in wheat, but lectins are all through the plant world. So it's not a surprise that we have these, once our guts are broken to shit, all this stuff, it's not an equal playing field anymore. And I think this is where I'm starting to go, holy shit, it's meat of the matter. We need to save the world, because they don't understand the damages these plants are doing, from the toxicity, from the actual plant itself, the lack of nutrition, And now you're putting in a bowl full of salad with half the nutritional value that it used to be 50 years ago. There's more chemicals and pesticides damaging you. You could be eating a steak and getting all that nutrition. I don't know. That makes pretty.
No, you're making perfect sense, Tony. As like you only just look at the food. I say this many times. Nothing is nowhere near what I used to be like 100 years ago. You only need to look at a piece of fruit. A piece of fruit was nowhere near as sweet and as tasty as what it is right now.
They did that taste test in the documentary with the tomato, with the hybrid. They're like, they eat it. The guy who's growing it in wherever he was, takes a bite, gives it to the documentarian, and he goes, tasteless. And it's like, what the hell? He's like, they don't, the world value, they don't care about that. They care. So basically, all these nutrients that were in the tomato is actually the thing that makes it tasty.
Mm-hmm.
Wild. And I mean, when you just like, I don't want to eat this shit. And I think that's what you're saying, Mark, too, is like, when you're looking at the worst quality egg, for instance, you're still getting the nutrients that life requires.
Mm-hmm.
The worst quality egg. We're not talking about maybe contaminated, horrible chicken life. I understand there's a lot of ethics and a lot of stuff, and I completely agree. But that nutritional value in that egg is still potentially a life. And you cannot argue that.
100%. 100%.
And I think that's where we come in and say the worst carnivore diet is better than the best standard diet any day of the week.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And then if you're going to be, like, I saw a good thing with, what's his name? Jesus. Dave Asprey. And he was basically, they're saying, it was a Mind Valley talk, and he was they're talking about veganism is down 10% because it's not healthy for you. It's simply not healthy. And now, with all the vegetable propaganda and the bullshit and the chemicals and all the industry, if you don't know what you're doing, you are going to be damaging yourself very quickly. And I think that's the biggest thing that we overlook. Vegetables are no longer what they were. You know, when our parents were telling us to eat our vegetables, those, even just our age, those vegetables were a lot different than they are now.
I just wanted to say another example are the Brussels sprouts. Like a few decades ago, in the 50s or so, children would absolutely not eat them. My son nowadays, and it's maybe he likes them, but I hear it more often that children nowadays, they easily eat those Brussels sprouts because they are not bitter anymore. They are even sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I hear a lot of people in this space, like, they can't give up their cauliflower rice or their cauliflower, and it's like, if you understood what that cauliflower is actually doing, how it got there, what's been done to it, and by the time you eat it, you know, like, you're just taking up space. I honestly, man, I'm switching. Like, not only do I believe in the carnivore way of eating, but if you're not eating local, seasonal, anything, you could be in serious trouble. And I think if your diet is based on what they're selling us, you're in a lot of trouble. And I think that's that 5%. And I think that 5% is that carnivore gloriness is a washout of these chemicals. I mean, it doesn't make sense that we used to be able to eat this stuff. And obviously we have the amount of nutrients the vegetables are bringing to the table are very marginal. But now I think it's the damage that they do because of these horrible, horrible pesticides. And if you Google this, Mark, like, you Google any individual pesticide chemical, number one symptom, there you go, no shit. Number one symptom is brain fog and usually neurodegenerative stuff. What is people suffering from? Everywhere, right? Neurotoxicity, maybe. You know, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. You don't want to get out of bed. And I think
I was just going to say, I think the reason why when you said that 10% about veganism and people are turning away from it, I think that all comes down to us as a community and what we're actually giving out there now. I think a lot more people now are listening. They're understanding. They're saying, right, okay, listen, this is me. I'm on that last hurrah. I'm really, really struggling, but I've been told that I have to eat my vegetables. I have to eat my vegetables, but listening to you guys, I might actually just say, you know what, I might actually just get rid of them. So this is why it has to be, we have to keep on spreading this message.
Yeah.
People need to hear both sides of the stories, because Tony's out there giving a very, very good speech on what's going on in the world, guys. So listen, if you're not going to understand this now, you probably never will.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Because like the time to wake up is now. It's not getting better, especially with these practices. And if you look at this, like, why do they push? Like, just answer this question. Why do you think they want you plant-based? Just think about it. If they want you plant-based for your health, you need to wake the earmuffs. You need to wake the fuck up, because they're controlling the whole game.
That's what I was just going to. All about control.
And no kidding, because I always thought, I'm like, why do they have this affinity for bashing beef? Why do they want the cows all gone and no burping and farting? It's all a play, man. And they don't.
It's all about money. It's all about money. That's all it is. It's all about greed. It's all about. That's all it is. It's just all about greed. This whole propaganda, all about making these people richer. That's all it is.
And if you look at
and I think you gave the best example with these companies like Monsanto and Dow and probably Bayer as well.
Yeah,
well Bayer is probably a mix of medicine and chemicals, but it's the same story.
And I mean, you're looking at this stuff now where it's almost laughable when you actually sorry guys, again, follow the fucking money. Seriously, just take 10 minutes out of your life and look at anybody that says eat this better than this. Follow where that's coming from. I guarantee you, it's leading to the same people that are making you sick, and it's sad. And I think we have to be doing this, boys. And I'm so happy that we've all got our own messages and our own things to deal with. But I love it when we get together, because, man, we all have our own ways, and it's all the same shit, man. And it's neat to see the different perspective, because Canada right now is just ridiculous. And I think, we get washed with the Americans. Like, a lot of the stuff in Europe, you guys honestly are a lot better than here. I mean, from what I found, there's still a lot of, and if you just look at this for all of our American followers, if something is banned in another country, but it's allowed in yours, don't you want to know why?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Right? It's still banned in another country. So is it good? And that's where this new awareness, I think, is the next level, where, I used to think this was obviously the way a human being should be eating. Now I think it's necessary, because I don't think the other way, it'll eventually it's going to catch up, and you're thinking you're eating these nutrients and these polyphenols and these phytonutrients and all this good stuff, carotenoids, flavonoids, and you know what? They're all contaminated with shit, all of them. And then stay away from our beef, because this is probably the next fight.
Maybe you see all the benefits of all these flavonoids and polyphenols actually because those vegetables are unhealthy. And if they contain at least those polyphenols, that they will counteract the negative effects. And it's a bit like the vitamin C and sugar.
Yeah.
If you eat a banana, you'll get also a lot of vitamin C, and so it compensates for it.
That's a really good point, Peter, because, like, how do you know unless you actually eliminate this stuff?
It's all population research again, or these cohort studies. And sure, they will find an advantage. And it's the same with those dates that we talked about last time. Yeah, those type 2 diabetics, if they eat dates, maybe they replaced white bread with some dates, and you see a slight benefit, but in the end, you're still eating a ton of garbage.
And like when you look at it, it's like people say I eat, like this is what was our, when we grew up, we ate carrots because they're good for your eyes. Vitamin A. We ate carrots. That's why. Eat carrots. They're good for your eyes.
Yeah, you were probably highly deficient in vitamin A, and you got a slight amount converted to actual retinol.
Right? And now when you look at the conversion from beta carotene, like they've done studies with beta carotene on its own, and they've proven that it's a carcinogenic on its own out of the food matrix. So that's not vitamin A. And then spinach with iron. Like we all like, you don't have to get started with spinach.
Yeah, another one is I talked about it with some young guy on Instagram, 14 years old or so, I think, and he was discussing with me, and I don't know, he's still going to school, and he thought he was very smart, but yeah, I was talking about plant sterols and how they are bad, and that a percentage get absorbed by people.
Yeah.
Like 1% or so, but some people absorb like 10%, and I don't know if it's called phytosterol something that you absorb a lot of these sterols anyway.
Yeah.
But that's at 10%, and then they have shown, and it's accepted in the literature, that it has a bad effect. But what about this 1%? Yeah, that one. Yeah, it has two names, but the one with
basically means,
or so, and
means you shouldn't be doing this. That's what it means.
But what if you're at this 1%? It's the same story with the percentage of rubbish in your food. But if you're at 1%, you're absorbing only 1%. Yeah, okay, maybe they are not able scientifically to show it in population studies that it's harmful, but those 10% people, that it should make you think like maybe the stuff on its own is not good at all.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And I mean, it's just, you go back into this stuff, and like, I think it comes down to, you can argue stuff, but what the hell were we supposed to eat? And this is where we need Bart K, because I'll tell you what, man, we were supposed to eat this way. 100%. And if anything, they're proving this now more than ever because of what they're doing to the plant world. And hey, vegans, if you don't have animals, you ain't got no soil. And I'll tell you what, man, no amount of nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, NPK fertilizer by the Rockefellers is gonna nutrify you out of it. So that's a whole other day to talk about, man. It's just the soil. This is the planet, man. And people accuse carnivores of not being eco-friendly, and I think that's the exact opposite. And if people would just wake the fuck up and just realize it's a system, an ecosystem with all moving parts. And if you have one, or you disturb one, you're going to be messing with the other one. And I think cows are beautiful.
Yeah, 100%. We just need to get rid of this mentality that killing animals is a bad thing. It's just.
And I mean, think about it. How many cows a year do you eat, Mark?
No idea.
One, maybe two tops.
Probably,
yeah, something like that.
Peter, right? So combined, we maybe have, I would say, probably each of us probably have five cows.
Yeah,
a year. If we had a family, maybe double. And now look at all the when you devastate an ecosystem, forest, all the devastation. Like, this is just logic, man. Any virtue signaling, whole food shopping vegan can like, you can't argue with that. You're killing rabbits, okay? You're killing rabbits, you're killing deer, you're killing mice. Now, if all animals are created equal, you're a serial killer, okay? So, right? It's just, we got to stop blame shifting and just realize what this is. And I think the way out of it is, it's local, seasonal. If every family had their own dairy cow and their own goats and their own, like, look what everything would change. I live in Canada, man. You think the whole country, we have a little bit of space here. So the space isn't a problem, I don't think.
No.
Well, boys, I think that was a pretty good rave. You guys want to say any final words?
No, I actually enjoyed that. I actually like listening to these rants coming from you, Tony.
Yeah, me too.
Man, and I'll tell you what, this is only scratching the surface because I mean, I always battle about holding back with this stuff because I don't want to offend anybody. But fuck that, man. It's no longer about this. Like every day, we all hear about these things, and it's just like I can't take some naive family that is thinking that they're doing amazing things by doing these things because they get told to do it, and the harm that's potentially caused. All diseases are going through the roof. All of them. This is not a drill. This is not me just spouting off. Everything is going up, including cancer, heart disease,
and not one person understands why.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah. And there are a lot of FDA fanboys or like nutrition center fanboys in the Netherlands. So they not only go against our ideas, but they want to really show that, for example, seed oils are very, very healthy, and they'll do anything to prove that it's healthy and just put aside all the aspects of that it's only grass, they're only recognized as safe.
Yeah.
And that's really difficult to argue with those people, because I always tell that we are also not, we can also not be sure about everything. We don't have hard proofs, like solid scientific proof that seed oils are really, really bad. I mean, we have a lot of like studies that show that suggest that things are bad, and there are huge correlations, for example, with the introduction of seed oils and the rise of type 2 diabetes, that sort of things. But yeah, to have convincing research and publications like you would have for example, lung cancer for smokers, that's difficult to obtain. But yeah, what do you do in the meantime? You're going to say like this stuff is safe. It's new stuff, only introduced about a century ago, and we're just going to assume it's safe and healthy. I don't get that.
And another thing is, like, nobody's ever going to convince me that this is the way to live and to eat, because you only need to look at these people.
Yeah.
Most people that I know that do plant-based are either overweight or they're extremely thin. Like, I know a few people that are doing plant-based, and you look at them and you can see they're not healthy. Yeah. They're not well. You can see that they're extremely thin. You can see the bones in their face. They've lost all the muscle mass. And when you hear on social media that you can get as much protein in a plant-based diet than an animal-based diet, I call bullshit. Because
it is.
For that reason. Because of that. Yeah. You only need to look at these people. Just look at people. Look at a person who's a carnivore. Look at Tony, and look at your standard person that's the same age, who's a plant-based influencer or doctor or whatever. I guarantee you'll be looking at Tony and saying he's a lot healthier. He looks a lot better than these people. Why do you think that is?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's so true. I mean, it's comes down to, like, we've all felt it, so we all feel it, and all the new people share this with somebody, and you know what? Share it with somebody that doesn't believe you, and that's where I will say, challenge it. Go learn, do your own due diligence, man, and actually do it. Honestly, look into this stuff: protein, fat, cholesterol, sugar, carbohydrates, plant anti-nutrients. Okay, and don't worry, we'll wait, because I'll tell you what, when you come out from the other side, make your own decision. I'm not trying to say I know everything.
100%. And guys, listen, if you're watching this show, you need to listen to this also. You need to stop falling for this propaganda shite when it comes to red meat and processed meats and stuff like that. These people, they don't understand proper research. Listen to people like us. When these people come out with these studies, these bullshit studies and research about red meat, they don't understand that when they came out with this, they didn't take into consideration what else you guys were actually eating with these foods.
Yeah.
When you're eating your McDonald's and you're eating your whatever, you have to understand, are you having a bun with that burger? Are you having chips with that burger? Are you having alcohol with that burger? What sauces are you putting in your burger? You know what I mean? It's not the red meat, guys. I understand that you might look at your plate and it's just meats, but we need to get past all that. We really do. We need to get past all that. We've already spoken about this for the last 45 minutes. You don't need anything else in your diet. This is what's actually doing the damage.
Yeah.
You just need to keep things as basic as possible and stop overcomplicating things, because this stuff is not complicated. Trust me.
No.
Yeah, just to add to your remark, Mark. Yeah, and also about this not making it complicated. If you look at some of those researchers, they talk about basically adding 1 or 2 slices of cooked ham on your sandwich. That could make the difference of getting diabetes or not. If you read the headlines, that is the thing. Because if you would already read the abstract, then you would read like, okay, the hazard ratio is 1.1, so the relative increase of risk is 10%. So say that your risk of getting diabetes, well, it's more than 5% nowadays, but yeah, that's because of all the junk food. But say that it's 5%, it increases by relatively by 10%, so it becomes 5.5%. For an individual, that is just totally irrelevant. You would switch up your entire diet, eliminate all the meat with all the consequences health-wise in other aspects, just because you'll get this presumably 0.5% or this let's say this 10% relative risk reduction.
Yeah,
it's just totally insane, and makes things very complicated also, because if you do it for that, you will have to do it for coffee because it's beneficial, so you'll have to add in a cup of coffee. You should probably drink half a glass of wine because alcohol is not allowed, but it contains all the polyphenols. It's shown in another population research. It's just total madness. And when you think about it, all those population researchers, they are correlation anyway.
No doubt. Okay, guys. So anyway, I want everybody to please, if you can, help us out. We want to get this message, and we're not doctors, we're not scientists. We felt amazing, profound things, changes in our lives. We're trying to get a word out that's a little bit different than just what. It's not just about the meat. Obviously, it's about the other stuff that you cut out. That last 5% of your diet could be making a very, very profound difference in your health and your well-being in the moment, almost immediately. So give it a try. For all those animal-based teetering to carnivore, give it a try. Just try and cut out as much as you can. That's kind of what I'm saying. Mark, how can people get a hold of you?
Hi, guys. If you want to get in touch with me, just send me an email at nsmark93@gmail.com, or you can follow me on all social media at fitnessbeyondtime01.
Peter?
Yeah, you can find me on all the platforms as Dutch Carnivore, and there you can also find my email. And Tony and Mark, let's maybe do an episode also on maybe the last 5% inside the carnivore diet, because you can do all kinds of level of carnivore diet. You can do up to lion or even raw lion, for example. So.
Absolutely. There's a lot of iterations of it. You can find me at TonyStewartCoaching.com, obviously at Tony Stewart Coach on YouTube. You're here if you're watching this, and obviously Tony Food for Thought at Instagram and TikTok. Guys, always a pleasure talking to you. I just, sorry I was taking a bit of a rave today, but some of the shit that I came to is just, it just doesn't stop, and it just keeps hammering home that people can take, you can take the power back and choose to nourish your body with real food the best you can. Because I think it's coming down to the fact that I think it's only going to get worse, unfortunately, and it's time. So wake up. Thanks, boys.
Speak soon, guys.
See you soon.